You don't need to be more positive. You need to accept your feelings for what they are. And I've honestly been thinking about this a lot because we are taught in society that you really need to feel as good as possible. Basically, you need to chase happiness and follow your bliss and organize your whole life around feeling good as much of the time as you can. And if you happen to have a negative emotion, it means there's something wrong that you need to then change. But really, there's nothing wrong with you for feeling negative emotions. This is honestly just a natural response to whatever you're experiencing in your life. And I'm not saying that you need to go around with severe mental health issues, and that if you don't have, if you have severe mental health issues, you shouldn't get treatment for them. Like, I'm definitely not saying that. Please get treated for anything that you think is of concern. But what I'm saying is you don't need to shame or judge yourself for feeling however you naturally feel. Your feelings are all valid. They're all there for a reason. And you have the capacity to feel a whole range of emotions. And I think that's actually something that deserves to be celebrated rather than something that you need to fight and feel bad about, let alone organize your whole life around trying to avoid part of your natural range of emotions. And so for me, when I was growing up, I was basically shamed for crying. Like, my parents literally would call me a crybaby, even when I was like in elementary school and was very young. And like, not to say that there's an age at which you should stop crying, but it was kind of like, you crying means there's something wrong with you and you need to figure out how to stop crying so much. And that was really how I was taught to see myself growing up. And so, as you can imagine, I spent a lot of time feeling shame about not just my emotions, but also feeling like it wasn't safe to express those emotions and it wasn't safe to be upset. And if I was upset, then that was something I needed to keep to myself and just figure out how to deal with it. But I couldn't reach out for help. I couldn't tell my parents. I couldn't tell anyone, because that would mean they would look at me differently, and that would mean there was something wrong with me. And so that was basically how I related to my emotions into my 20s. And thank God that since then I have changed my perspective on this. But I know that there are people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s who still feel like there's something wrong with them if they're feeling negative emotion, let alone if they were to express that and to be seen crying or to be seen frustrated or angry or in any of those emotions that are deemed unacceptable. And because I'm a manifestation coach, we have to talk about the law of attraction, right? I actually looked up the law of attraction when I was preparing to record this. And so the official definition of the law of attraction, I'm just reading it off my notes, is that your dominant thoughts and emotions send a vibrational frequency into the universe, which then attracts similar energy back to you. So basically, if you are thinking negatively and feeling negatively, you are sending out that vibration, you're sending out that vibe into the universe, and then that is going to attract negativity into your life. First of all, ew. But second of all, that is just toxic positivity dressed up with spiritual language. It's just another way of telling you that if you're experiencing hardship or difficulty or any challenges, or if your life isn't going the way that you hoped it would go, then it's your fault because you're thinking too many negative feelings and you're thinking too many negative thoughts and you're feeling too many negative feelings. And honestly, that's just not true. And the reason I'm recording this is because, first of all, I want you to know that it's not true. But second of all, I want to take the time to really unpack how thinking that way and believing that is actually making it harder for you to manifest the things that you want. And I'm really sharing all of this with the intention to liberate you and to help you start to accept yourself more deeply, which will actually start to make your manifestations unfold faster and make your manifestation practice more effective. And so let's unpack exactly what I mean by this. I have been reading a lot of journal articles, a lot of psychology, literature, and science and research around how people relate to their emotions and what people believe about their emotions. And there's actually research that says that when people set the goal of trying to feel good and when people strive towards feeling good, it can actually create negative meta emotions. So what is a meta emotion? A meta emotion is a feeling about your feelings, so how you feel about the way that you feel, your emotions about your emotions. And so if you decide that you should feel good and then you notice that you're not feeling good, you will then feel even worse because you're now shaming yourself for not meeting your expectations. You're shaming the fact that you feel bad. So not only do you have the baseline emotion that's uncomfortable and doesn't feel good, but then you have this secondary thing of shame and judgment and frustration with yourself over the fact that you don't feel good. So you're layering a negative, painful emotion on top of what's already a hard experience for you. And you're making the situation worse. You're making yourself feel worse. And again, this is not to shame you. This is not me saying, shame on you for doing this. This is me really trying to take the time to explain, this is what's going on inside of you when you put pressure on yourself to feel good all the time. And when you are telling yourself, I need to feel good and I need to figure out how to feel as good as possible, you are naturally also shaming yourself every time you feel bad. And that's just what's happening psychologically inside of you. It's just something to be aware of. And when I became aware of this, I realized that it was more important for me to practice accepting my emotions rather than trying to micromanage them and trying to make myself feel a certain way. Because, of course, life happens and you have a reaction to that, and sometimes you don't feel good, right? Sometimes someone dies, or, a law passes that changes what opportunities are available to you or to people that you love, or whatever may happen. We go through stuff. We go through breakups. We, put ourselves out there and we don't get the response we hoped for. All these things are part of life. And it's natural and very human to feel pain in those circumstances, to not feel great about those things. And so I had to come to terms with the fact that I am going to feel negativity, I'm going to feel pain, I'm going to feel frustration, I'm going to feel disappointment, jealousy, whatever it might be. But what I can control is how I feel about those emotions. I hope that makes sense. What I can control is the second layer, the thing that happens afterwards, the response to it. So I really started learning how to feel my feelings without judging them, and how to accept and embrace my feelings really deeply, so that I was not then layering negativity on top of negativity. Because honestly, judging and shaming your emotions is so energetically expensive. It just takes a lot out of you to judge yourself for how you're feeling. And what I found was that as I started accepting and embracing my emotions, I had a lot more energy left over to pour into my manifestations. And so it actually helped my manifestation journey to accept my emotions rather than to try to force myself to stay high vibe and force myself to be positive. So I took the energy that I would have been using to micromanage my feelings, and I poured that energy directly into manifesting the outcomes I desired. And in this case, for me specifically, it was money. So back in 2021, I was making $30,000 a year, and I really wanted to be making six figures. And I was also going through a depression. I was in a deep depressive episode. And so at that time, I had learned that, you know, your feelings are creating your vibration, and that's what you put out into the universe, and that's what you get back. I was really into the law of attraction. And so I was in this depression, and then I was also shaming myself for being in this depression, right? So all these things were happening. And when I started actually just accepting that I was in a depression and really meeting that reality with love and with compassion and with softness, and then that actually made me feel like, okay, maybe it's okay that I'm feeling this, and maybe I can go get some support. And I actually got a therapist. I, you know, leaned into my breathwork practice. I was being more open and honest with the people in my life. And that actually gave me a lot more energy to be able to manifest money, to be able to do things that would raise my income. And that's how I ended up going from 30K in a year to 105K a year. So it's not some big mystery. It's really this piece of emotional acceptance rather than trying to force myself to feel a certain way, rather than emotional manipulation, if you will. And so I want you to really practice accepting your emotions for what they are. And if you want to learn my favorite practices and my favorite tools for how to feel your feelings and how to embrace them and accept them and build up that emotional intimacy with yourself, then I actually put together a free class. It's called Graduate from Good Vibes Only. If you haven't checked it out, I would really recommend you dig into this. If you have checked it out in the past, I have updated it and added more practical, tangible exercises to the class. It's 2 hours long. So even if you've done it in the past, you have not seen it like this, I would really recommend that you check it out. And that is where I really go into the practices that I used and that I still use today to accept and embrace my feelings, so that I can then free up energy that I pour into my manifestations. So again, you can check out the free class either at the link in my bio, or if you're listening to this on YouTube or on the podcast, it'll be down below this episode. But I want to get this into the hands of as many people as possible, because the more we can learn how to accept our emotions and embrace them, the more energy that we'll have to really create the lives that we desire and the lives that we deserve. And so let's all collectively unlearn toxic positivity. Let's learn how to be kinder to ourselves, with the understanding that as we are kinder to ourselves and as we actually meet ourselves where we're at, we set ourselves up even better to manifest the lives that we want. And so I have so much more to say on this. That's why I have a whole free 2-hour class on this. And again, if you have not checked it out, I would really recommend that you do so. If you're on Instagram, you can head to the link in my bio. If you're on YouTube or a podcast, you can head down below. I love you so much. I will see you again very soon in another video or in another episode. And until then, I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day, rest of your week, and honestly, rest of your life. Mwah. I love you so much. Take good care.